Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our podcast, Very Factual. We're your hosts, Kayla.
And Izabella, and on today's episode, we're gonna be doing something a little bit different. It is International Week, and me and Kayla decided that why don't we do kind of like a Premier League check-in? We'll be looking at the table, seeing where teams stand, and we'll also be giving you guys our top 5 worst and top 5 best Premier League players so far this season. So, do you want to kick it off with the table, Kayla? What surprises you the most?
So, the thing that's definitely for sure surprising me is Spurs get there in first. And
Definitely.
going by their form this season, it's not too surprising, but like the idea of having them in first
I know. I feel
instead of City is just, it's throwing me
like
off.
City's in third. What?
It's not right. Arsenal and Tottenham are tied right now with points, so
Yeah.
it's pretty close. And City is only 2 points behind, but it's still pretty
It's it's
uneasy.
it's weird to see, but I have a question. I think I mentioned this last episode, but I wanted to ask you, do you think Spurs could be consistent this season? Do you think they could keep this form going for the whole season?
So the form that they've had this last week,
Yeah.
no, I think it was just probably like an off week. But like
Yeah.
the form they had before when they were in first, I feel like they could keep it up. But since other teams have seen how like amazing they are this season, they're definitely going to be putting more pressure on them, and they're going to have to push more for their they're gonna constantly keep their form up and make sure that they're playing their all. But I feel like it's going to be more difficult for them to win.
Yeah, the thing about Spurs is I don't I feel like they're relying on kind of like 2 players, which is
Hmm.
James Madison and Heung-min Son, and I feel like if they get injured, one of them or even both of them at the same time, hopefully not, I feel like it'll be a problem for them because they don't have that much
Yeah.
squad depth. But I think City could really just climb their way back. Like I'm not really worried.
Oh yeah, I think I'm not worried either. Like they're just 2 points behind Arsenal and Spurs, so I just think that they'll just pick it back up and go back up the table.
Yeah, I think it's weird to see, but I think they're missing some players, but I don't think it'll affect them in the long run, and maybe they could get their fourth Premier League um win. And some other surprising things is Man United and Chelsea in 10th and 11th place. We're right
Yeah.
next to each other. Do you think Man United should be in 10th? Does it just
Well,
seem
okay,
weird?
judging it makes me really mad. It seems off. It doesn't fit to this like the expectations of Manchester United and even Chelsea. But with
Yeah.
both of the teams' forms this season, it makes sense. They've both been kind of slacking in some games, picking it up in others. It's just it's inconsistent. So I feel like the place 10 and
Yeah.
11 makes sense.
I think Chelsea's on their way up, but their next
Of course
game.
you do.
No, but they have. Like it's literally true. Like if you look at the scores from the beginning of the season, we couldn't get a goal and then we go and beat Burnley 4-1. Like we actually got goals. And I feel like in the beginning of the season and maybe even last season you wouldn't have seen that. But our next game is against Arsenal, which is
That's a
very
tough one.
scary because Arsenal is amazing. But
Hmm.
Man United's next game is against Sheffield, which is a must win, like,
If
period.
they don't win, I'm gonna be very disappointed. Sheffield is in what, last? I think yes, they're in last right now.
Yeah,
So if they don't win this, that just
yeah.
shows how inconsistent they are and
Just
how
how
cocky they can
bad they've
be,
been
you
this
know?
season. Like, it's horrible. This isn't the Manchester United we know. I feel like if you look back a couple of years ago and just like the 90s and early 2000s and you looked at Manchester United, they were like the epitome.
Hmm.
Like everyone wanted to be like them. They were like the best team in the world, and now you see them in 10th place with players that are not like huge name players, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
Like
it does.
and then for relegation, the teams in relegation are Burnley, Bournemouth, and Sheffield. I don't think I'm really surprised that any of them are
No.
in last, but a statistic that was that I saw was that um this is the worst start for any promoted teams in the Premier League. So Luton, Burnley, and Sheffield, they are literally all at the bottom of the table, and it's the worst start for any promoted teams from the championship. Like last season, I think the promoted sides that came in did amazing. Like you look at Fulham really beat expectations.
Hmm.
Bournemouth picked it up, Forest picked it up, and they all stayed up. Like they're all still in the Prem.
And
But
they're still up there. Like they're not.
yeah, I mean, Bournemouth is in 19th, but
Hmm.
maybe they can do another turnaround. But it's just Luton is kind of a very like I
I expected them to be out this year, honestly.
yeah, Sheffield is at the bottom and they only still have a point.
Hmm.
which is very concerning. Like there are very low point tallies.
Yeah.
And then Newcastle United, they are in 8th, which is all, like Newcastle have been kind of like meh this season, but I think they picked it up. And then, but you look at all of these so-called quote quote mid-table teams from last season, like
Hmm.
Aston Villa, Brighton, West Ham, they are all like keeping Newcastle out of like top 4, which is
Yeah, I'm
crazy.
actually pretty surprised that West Ham is in front of Newcastle because last year West Ham was like pretty like on the bottom half of the
They were
table.
horrible.
They were really bad. They were, I
And
think at one point they were like in relegation, but then
yeah,
they
yeah,
picked it
yeah.
back up. And the fact that they're in seventh now ahead of Newcastle is pretty surprising.
Yeah, and like they lost Declan Rice, which I literally thought was gonna be like the
Hmm.
most horrible thing for them, but they brought in James Ward-Prowse, who is an amazing, amazing player. I love him so much. And then Brighton just have been amazing since last season as well. Um, I love the manager there. The players, they just respect him so much. They follow what he does. Aston Villa also, they have just been amazing and turned things around with Unai Emery. And then in 4th place, we have Liverpool. Um, Another one of my favorite teams. I think Liverpool actually have been quite good this season.
I
Like
agree with that.
last season, we saw it wasn't. I feel like it wasn't like the season for many teams.
No. Oh, I mean, I feel like every single year there's always going to be at least like three top teams, like, Chelsea, Manchester
Yeah.
United, City. Like, there's always at least like two or three that have an off season, like that
Yeah.
they're lower half of the
Yeah.
table.
And I think Liverpool will get to speak on some players maybe later. I think they've have done really good transfers this summer. I think
Hmm.
they've rebuilt their midfield, which is something they needed to do for a bit. And I think it's going to pay off for them. And they could maybe this is just me like my bias, but maybe they could challenge for the title because I think Spurs might drop off toward like maybe the Christmas season when the games are
Mm,
absolutely crazy.
I don't really know if I agree with you on that because
Really?
I feel like Spurs, they're like pretty constant in their form this season, unless they're like, for example, Son, who is doing
Yeah.
phenomenal, unless he kind of gets like injured for like a really rough reason, he's out for the
Mhm.
season, then you can look out maybe. But I feel like since they've been working together a lot since Kane left, they're gonna be in the top three by the end.
And that's also
I don't think they're gonna fall that much.
that is actually wow. The only reason I don't think that they could last is because I don't think they have that much depth. I think, Madison and Son get injured and then you don't really have anyone. But they can. Maybe they'll prove me wrong like they did when Harry Kane left. Like they
Hmm.
absolutely changed my mind. I think
I mean,
Arsenal. Go
oh,
ahead.
sorry. I was
No,
gonna say, I
go.
see what you're saying with like him getting injured. I said the same thing. But then also, they've learned to work together as a team off of each other's flaws and how they work with the ball. I feel like they just know each other better now instead of just depending on Kane like they used to.
Mhm.
So even if he gets injured, which I hope he doesn't, but if Son gets injured, I feel like they'll be okay. I think they'll be enough push to keep them in the top at least four.
And do you think Arsenal could, be up there and challenge for the title like they did last season? And they were
I
very
feel
close
like,
too.
yeah, I think that they're doing pretty great, but Saka is now injured,
Yeah.
and he's like one of their key players. But I feel like they could still like work for it. It's
I think
honestly, I can't really tell you. Like,
I think it's still very early almost.
yeah,
Like,
it's still really early. I can't really. I have to see how Arsenal plays without Saka first to
mhm.
see how they establish with each other.
And hopefully Saka's injury isn't like a huge blow. Like
Hmm.
hopefully it's nothing serious.
It's just like 3 games, hopefully.
Yeah, hopefully. I think Arsenal will like stay up there definitely with
Oh yeah.
City and Liverpool. Because like I said, I have no doubt City will climb back. I think I said that they'll win the title again because they
Hmm.
just look unstoppable. I mean, right now they're in a bit of a dip, if you want to say that.
But they're in third, so it's not that much of a dip.
Yeah, and it's only 2 points difference. Like I feel like when you
Yeah.
look at it and you see Spurs, Arsenal, City, you're like, oh my gosh, right? But then you
Hmm.
look at like the actual points and you're like, it's only two. Like they need to win a game and they'll be top of the table.
Yeah.
It's really not shocking. And I am so excited to see what the rest of this Prem season holds, Kayla.
Yes, I'm excited to see how all the teams and clubs will play with each other. And we were talking about Sheffield and how they only have 1 point. I just want to go back to that real quick. Their
Yeah,
next game that they have that they could possibly win
it's Manchester
is
United.
no, 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 no. Hold on, I lost it.
It's Man
Okay.
United.
No, it's against Bournemouth on November 25th. That's the closest.
Oh, okay. I thought
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you meant like their next game, like
No,
the
no, no,
actual
no,
next
no.
game.
Like their next game, they could possibly gain more points because
Yeah.
then they have. Oh wait, they have Sheffield on October 20. I mean, no, that's Arsenal. They have Arsenal on October 28th, but I don't know. The next game they could possibly gain more points from that 1 point is
Yeah.
November 25th, which I'm honestly kind of rooting for them a little bit just to gain some points. Just to gain some
Yeah,
points.
just just
Not
just
leave.
some points. Just get a win, just
Yeah,
please.
just get a win. That's all I'm wishing for Sheffield.
Yeah, and then speaking of underwhelming players, you and me, we picked out our top 5
Hmm.
worst Premier League players so far this season, not just new transfers and that, just like overall, who has
Yep.
been some of the worst. And I think we'll start off with number 5. Kayla, would you like to go? Share your pick?
Sure. So, worst, out of my top five. Okay, I have Onana, Manchester United's goalie.
Really?
Yeah, so I had trouble picking this one because I was like, he's had a shaky start, and so has De Gea, the old United
Daya, I
goalie.
was like, where did
No,
he
no, no.
come
He
from?
also had comparing them. They both had shaky starts, and then
Okay,
he
yeah,
ended up
yeah.
doing good. But Onana has made many mistakes since the start of the season, and
Mm-hmm.
he's made, as we call them, like warm-up shots. He's failed to
Yeah,
catch
yeah, yeah.
many warm-up shots. And I also noticed, like, I'm no expert in goalies or anything. I don't really focus on them, but whenever there's a player running at him, he stays very close to the goal line when he should like
Mm-hmm.
take that step forward and pressure the ball. He likes to sit on the line almost as if it's always like a penalty. And that's definitely not working in his favor.
Yeah. So is that like your number one worst?
No, no, no. That's
Or
like
do you have
my
more? So
I
that's your
have more.
fifth?
Yeah, that's my
Oh
fifth.
my gosh. Okay, so my number 5 is Nicholas Jackson from Chelsea. Um obviously, we see he's not the striker that Chelsea want. Only 2 goals in the Prem so far, 0 assists. He got when he was at Villarreal, he got 12 goals and 4 assists last season, but he just hasn't really kicked off at Chelsea, and he was supposed to be kind of like quote quote main striker, kind of like that number 9 there. He kind of I feel like Pochettino rotates his side a lot, so Jackson sometimes comes off the bench a lot, and he has to compete with Armando Broya, who came back from an ACL injury. And I think Nicholas Jackson is still very young and unproven, especially in the Premier League. And hopefully, he can really learn his trade under Pochettino because he's a great manager. Jackson just needs that right service from all the players around him. I think it's like the value that they got him from, you obviously know that he's not going to be like a Haaland, like 50 goals a
Mhm.
season. Yeah. But I just expected maybe a bit more because he's not really giving anything, and we're relying on a lot of like outfield, like wide players to make the goals rather than the striker. Like at City, you know Haaland's going to score the goals, right?
Mhm.
But that's not what it is at Chelsea. That's my
Yeah.
number 5. It's both our
I was actually
clubs.
considering him for number 5 too, for all the reasons that you listed, but I just
Yeah.
ended up with Onana.
Yeah. Number 4?
Number 4, so I had Kai Havertz.
Oh, wow.
He's had a
Okay.
very, very bad start, and I
Mhm.
didn't expect him to succeed per se, but I didn't expect him to fail this much in Arsenal. He's only had 1 goal, which was a penalty given to
That
him.
does not count.
That
That
does
does
not
not
really
count.
count. It does not really count, but it still, like, counts as a goal, I guess, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
in his
But he
record,
didn't work
yeah.
for it, he just had to kick the ball in the net, you know?
Mhm.
And he never really contributes on the field. Like, whenever I see he's playing, I don't really see him. Like, he's just kind
No.
of there, but he's not doing it. He's never contributing. And he has been out of shape, so it's no surprise that he's not really
Yeah.
contributing to the team and
He's
their
just
efforts.
he's just been out of form ever since he came to Chelsea. Like
Yeah.
in Germany, he was amazing. Like he was like this next, they put so much like stuff around his name, and then he came to Chelsea. He didn't live up. I think I'll talk about Kai Havertz a little bit later, which kind of spoils it. So I'll move on to my number 4.
Yeah.
So my number 4 worst Premier League player so far is actually Sandro Tonali. This might be kind of shocking. I think there was just so much hype around him coming to Newcastle. He did score in his first game when they thrashed Villa 5-1, I believe it was, and everyone thought it was like, oh, this is such a great transfer. He's going to be amazing. But that's really all he did. We haven't seen anything really else from him. At least I haven't. Sandro Tonali himself mentioned that has had trouble adapting in England and Newcastle, like in his personal life, and he didn't necessarily want to leave Milan. Milan just had to get rid of him for financial reasons, but I really want to see more of him. Like that first game against Villa, he looked amazing. He is amazing. He has so much unleashed talent. Like he's still 23, and I definitely think he could be one of the best midfielders in the Prem in future years if he stays that long, if he is capable of producing consistently. But right now, he's not for me. And I really do want to see more of him because he has been looking like the small glimpses that we did see of him were incredible. Just it's kind of disappointing that he
Mhm.
doesn't perform consistently.
So, actually, my number 3 was also Sandro
Really?
Tonali.
You're not
Yes!
really.
You basically stole all of my reasons. He had a lot of hype.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
He did have a lot of hype around him when he came, and he has so much potential as you've mentioned. Like, we see him, we see, like, these little glimpses of him
Yeah.
that you know he can do it. I just feel like he's not pushing himself, and he's not
No.
it's not his team, it's not his club. He doesn't fit in there as he probably should, and like you said, there's not much adaptation to the team. He
I
doesn't
think
fit in, I feel like he can't reach his potential there.
I think maybe he can. Yeah. I think it's just like because he said he's having trouble adapting like to life in
Mhm.
England, which is obviously a big culture shock if you move from
True.
Italy to England. So maybe he just has to get himself settled or maybe play a different role. But I do really want to see more of him. And then my number 3 actually was Mason Mount. Um
Mm,
I think some people might disagree with me because some United players and people overall has said that the times Mount has been on the field, he has produced something, but maybe it's just me being biased or um, um, I think he just really has to be on this list. I think, he had a tough season at Chelsea last season as well. He literally did virtually nothing for United. I feel like he hasn't impacted them at all. He is like, if you look at him in form, he is an exceptional player, and he hasn't been the same since Chelsea's really tough season last year. He basically turned invisible at United, like not just at United, like there used to be like a lot of like a hype around his name. It was like Mason Mount, Mason Mount, Mason Mount. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
But like I feel like he hasn't become that big talking point at all in a while, and I don't understand why United needed him. I don't think they needed him. I think this whole United team has been struggling a lot. But Mount has to be one of the biggest struggles so far, and I think it's just like if you look at him at Chelsea, um, and like him at Chelsea at his best, and you look at him at United now, like where he hasn't really had an impact, I think you have to say it's kind of like he's kind of one of the worst so far because it's not that same player.
Yeah. So I was gonna say I think two minds think alike because I also had Mason Mount, but
For
I had
your
him in
two?
second.
Oh
Yup, I had him in
my gosh.
second. Like like you said, he was good in Chelsea, but then he
Mhm.
fell at United. After 11 games, he already missed 5 due to an injury, which
Mhm.
I mean, I understand he was injured, but like in those other games that he was in, those 6 games, he barely made a contribution.
Yeah.
And the only contribution he made was in the Carabao Cup against Crystal Palace, which it's Crystal Palace, like, sure,
It
they're a
was their
great
B
team, they've
team.
been a
It was
great
their
team,
B
but
team too. It was like
yeah, it was their B team, and that's the only time I actually really seen him do something.
mhm.
Like, he has the dynamics and creativity,
He
but
definitely
not in
does.
United, like, it dissolved.
I
It
just
dissolved when he, joined the club.
I just like I don't he's I think he has had some shots that have been pretty great. I was like, "Oh my gosh, Mason Mount, you're here?"
Mhm.
But like then again, he's not that player that we've seen at Chelsea, and that's why I think we have to put him on here.
Yeah, he definitely fell at United, and it makes me a little disappointed because, like you said, I don't really see why United really needed him.
Yeah, me
But when I
either.
heard he was coming, I was like, okay, first of all, he should not be a red. But but when he came, I was like, hey, maybe he can be a contribution. He can do something for this club, but he really isn't. He's just there. Once in a
Yeah.
while, like you've mentioned, he'll do something, but not anything too significant for the money that we bought him for.
No, definitely not. I want to say he was quite expensive.
He really
Maybe.
was.
I mean, he was not like 100 million pounds, but still,
No,
I think
yeah.
he was like 60 million around that. I think, I feel
He was
like.
pretty expensive. He was an expensive player.
And then, so for my number two, I couldn't pick between two. I was literally torn. So I have two as my number two. I have Kai Havertz and Casemiro. I literally could not differentiate between the two. I think Kai Havertz is the most useless, underwhelming signing for Arsenal. You had him as your number three?
Four. Four.
Four. Four. I have him as my number two. I think you said he scored a penalty. I don't technically count that as a goal. He hasn't been the same player since Germany, like I said. Um, before and I just don't understand why you sign a player who's been out of form for so long and then make him a starter
Mhm.
like Arteta. What are you doing? You put David Raya in, you get like what are you doing, man? You're not supposed to be doing this. Like Kai Havertz, he said Kai Havertz has something in him that he likes. What? You haven't seen that since Germany. Like whatever you saw at Chelsea, okay, I guess, but like he's literally given nothing, and that's why I think he's my number two. And as for Casemiro, last season for United, he was great. Like I loved Casemiro at United last season. He was like their rock. He came in, everyone's like, "Oh, Casemiro, Champions League winner," everything like that. But this season went the other way for him. I think maybe it's age. What is he like 30
He's pretty
something?
old.
I
I think
don't
he's
think
like 32,
32 or something.
34. I don't know.
Hold on. I don't think he's 34. He's 31. Okay. Yeah, it's like
31.
yeah. Um I think he's just missing that extra yard. He can't really get to
Mhm.
places as fast as he used to. Like he's not the same player like he was at Real Madrid. And he'll never be because, age comes and takes the best out of you. And I feel like he really has no one helping him in midfield for the mistakes he's making. Like Amrabat was supposed to be that, right? But Ten Hag decides, oh, I know better, and he puts Amrabat at left back. Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? You need cover for Casemiro. Casemiro has been making like more and more mistakes this season. And he literally needs that extra cover. I don't take anything away from Casemiro overall as a player. Like, I think he's one of the best, at Real Madrid. Amazing. But it's just this season so far, I think he has to be one of the worst.
I agree with you on that.
And for your number one,
So I actually kind of had trouble picking this one because I don't think that there's an absolutely worst one because everyone has the potential to keep like going. They always have like those little moments where it's like, "Oh, I didn't know you could actually do that. I thought you were bad," you know?
yeah.
But my number one I have as Marcus Rashford.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So, uh-huh. So he's had a very unexpected, I want to say bad compared to last year,
He took
start
a
to the
wrong
season.
turn. He just took a wrong turn.
Yeah, like he can't repeat what he did last season, of course. I
No.
wasn't expecting him to. Last season was phenomenal for him.
Yeah,
But
definitely.
still, it's just I feel like he lost more than half of the skills and precision that he had from last season. Like he
Yeah.
played 10 matches and has only scored once. And
Oh my
compared to the
gosh.
30, he was a 30 goal top scorer last season. And
That's
he's only
like,
scored.
and all his goals came, like his like form came after the World Cup. And he got like
Mhm.
30 goals and now he has one. It's
Yep,
crazy.
and he has very on the field, even off the field, he has a very negative body language, like, he doesn't look confident, and he's still I can tell he's still trying to establish a partnership with Højlund?
Hoyland.
Højlund. With
We're getting
Højlund,
there.
but
We're
it's
getting there.
I'm getting there. But it's kind of failing a little bit, I feel like they just gotta work together more, and I
Hmm.
did notice he did become a little bit greedy with the ball, just a little bit, like, I feel like
Yeah.
he's just mad at himself because he's not as great at all compared to how he
Yeah.
was, and he's just like, "Okay, well, I need to do something," so he's not sharing, he's not he's not doing he's not working with the team, he's becoming more of an independent player, and
Okay.
I think he's pretty aware that he needs to improve, but he doesn't
Oh
I don't
yeah.
see him improving, like, I don't see him changing that much.
So my number one is also a United player. And I'm actually maybe quite surprised you didn't have him as your number one. I had Andre Onana. I don't really think it's a surprise. Like you had him fifth, right? And
Yeah.
I was like, wait, is that your worst? But you had him as your fifth? I was like very surprised. I think he's like maybe the biggest fraud transfer, one of the biggest fraud transfers ever. I think at Inter last season he was incredible. Like you look at him Champions League final, like remember when we watched it against City, he did great for them. But for United,
Mhm.
he hasn't given any of his qualities, which is really concerning. He can't do the most basic job of a goalkeeper. He can't not save the ball. He came in because this was the reason he came in for David De Gea, because he was better with his feet. Since when
Mhm.
do goalkeepers have to be better with their feet than with their hands? Like, no.
Um,
It's
yeah, I don't know. I feel
horrible.
like well, like I mentioned before though, both goalies had a rough start in the beginning. Because Manchester United posted this thing that's like comparing De Gea and Onana, but still Onana hasn't really been
No, I think
living up to his old potential that he had.
he can't save the most basic shots. You said that. Like it's literally going to be such a long season, not just only for him, but for United if his form continues and if United's form continues cuz he just looks, I'm going to say it, he looks horrible right now. He looks so
Mhm.
uncomfortable. He looks like he doesn't know what he's doing. Like he's not the same. Like I refuse to believe that this was the Andre Onana of Inter Milan from last season. Like because it just doesn't look like that. And I'm actually very surprised you did not have him as your number one because I thought that was like clear obvious.
Well, like I felt pretty bad putting him as number one because
Just
even though I
because,
also have a United player, it's
yeah,
just he's a goalie and he's still relatively young. And he has had a rough start, and he's apologized for his mistakes. He knows he has to do better. He's
Oh
fully
yeah,
aware, and I feel like he's made a couple of great saves though. So
a
I'm not gonna
few, a
judge him
few.
that harshly. A few. I'm not gonna judge him that harshly too early, you know?
Well, I will. So he is my number one worst. And I actually had some honorable mentions. Like I wanted to put them in, but then I'm like, I don't know where they would fit. And I was just having trouble fitting them in. So I obviously had Rashford, like you said. I just,
Yep.
he hasn't continued his form, so he's obviously on there. I had Moises Caicedo from Chelsea. Um, I was actually
I was
watching
also thinking him.
I was watching Sky Sports Saturday Social yesterday, and they said Moises Caicedo was like a hit transfer. I just don't think he's lived up to my expectations. Like if you look at him at Brighton, he was like this amazing creative player, but he just hasn't been that for Chelsea. So that's why I have to say he's been one of the worst. And I also have Mateo Kovacic from what's it City. I just he hasn't been playing as much as I expected him to. So maybe that's really the only reason why I have him on there because he hasn't been playing as much as I want him to. And yeah, those are my honorable mentions. Do you agree with any
I
of
love that.
them?
You said I
Caicedo?
forgot his name. Caicedo,
Caicedo?
Caicedo,
Yeah,
yeah.
Caicedo.
I was thinking him for number 5 instead of Onana, but
How do you
he's
have Onana in 5? Like,
but he's like you
he,
said, he was pretty good in Brighton,
Brighton, yeah.
but he's just not living up to my expectations either.
No, yeah. And then we get to move on to something more positive now. Our
Yes.
best 5 players of the Premier League so far. Kayla, do you want to start with your fifth?
Sure. So my 5th best player so far is Ollie Watkins.
Oh!
Yeah, so I was kind of struggling with this 5th one because I couldn't really pick. There are a lot of players that are doing
Mm-hmm.
great this season, but I feel like he just stuck out to me. Like his personality and form on the field is one of the main reasons why I have him here.
Yeah.
And he's like constantly determined. Like, he scored 4 goals in 8 matches. So I feel like just he's always pressuring the ball. He's always helping his teammates when they like passing the ball. He's not greedy
Mm-hmm.
with it. He has the right mindset when he's on the field, and he's always, I feel like, kind to his teammates. So that's
That's
just
a
like
nice way to put it.
so it's just like it makes sense putting him in number 5. I didn't really have much else reason. It just made sense to me.
I think I actually did not think of putting I he slipped my mind completely. I think that's a very good pick. I think he has really flourished under Unai Emery, and he has like his manager, like this is his guy. He can play under him, and he has been looking amazing. Wow, I can't believe he
And I
slipped my
definitely
mind like that.
Yeah, and I definitely see progress in him compared to
Oh
like
yeah,
last year. He's definitely getting much better and more
and
comfortable on the
yeah, more
field.
confident. Oh wow, I actually maybe should have put him on here. Well, my number 5 is Julian Alvarez from City. I am one of the biggest Julian Alvarez fans on there. He has stepped up, like especially recently since Haaland is quote out of form. Like Haaland's not scoring right now. Um, Alvarez has made some incredible goals off set pieces this season, and I think he is so underrated, right? Like he won 4
Mhm.
trophies last season, right? He won he won FA Cup, he won Premier League, he won Champions League, and he won World Cup with Argentina. That should definitely be like Ballon d'Or status there. Like 4 like
Mhm.
top trophies like that. He I swear he would be like the number 1 striker in any other Premier League team. Like Chelsea, if he went to Chelsea, he would be Chelsea's main guy. If he went to Liverpool, he would probably be Liverpool's main guy. If he went to United, he would obviously be United's main guy. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like I think he's just enjoy the way he plays. I think he has more creativity than Haaland because I feel like Haaland's that guy that just sits at the top of the box and then gets the ball passed to him, gets it served to him, and he taps it in. But I think Alvarez. Oh my god, I can't talk. I said Alvarez. I combined their names. Alvarez has just I think he wants to be his own self, and I feel like that's what he's showing. He's like kind of showing. He's like, hey, I'm not just Haaland's shadow. I am my own player. He only scored 3 goals so far, but they've been amazing goals, and I think there will be way more to come. And I think he's probably one of my favorite players in the Premier League, like overall. I love him so much.
I agree with yours. I think that's a really good pick. I don't have him on my list, but that is a very smart. I actually didn't really think of him. Like I saw his name, but I was
Because
like,
he
eh.
is like Haaland's shadow. Like
He
everyone's
is,
just
and
like,
I feel like I now that you've mentioned all the things, like he's not. He's not Holland's shadow. He's definitely his own player. He has more creativity, like you said.
yeah, I definitely think so. And then you're number 4.
So I actually had Holland.
Oh wow,
I
really?
had Holland. So last year he was absolutely phenomenal.
Mhm.
But this year he's not he's obviously not as great as last year, but he still continues to be amazing. Like he's had a
Yeah.
little bit of a bad 2 weeks recently, but he scored 8 goals in 8 matches, which is pretty crazy to
That's
me.
pretty good.
And I mean, I expected that from him because it is Erling Haaland, and
Mhm.
it's pretty he has a pretty predictable form. Like it's always he's always in form pretty much, but I
Mhm.
did not expect less from him. But like you said, he does kind of sit up at the top waiting for the ball to get his shot. But it
Yeah.
seems to be working in his favor.
Yeah.
8 goals, 8 matches, pretty amazing.
Mhm. Like right now he's like in a
So
bit. Go ahead.
no, what were we saying?
I think right now he's in a bit of a dip, but it's like
Hmm.
literally a matter of time before he goes and scores another hat trick. Like I'm just
Yeah,
waiting.
I feel like his dips are like an average player. He's a great player, so that's
Yeah,
why I have him up on this
yeah,
list.
because he's not a robot. He's obviously gonna have
No.
his little dips. I'm gonna be honest with you. I do not have Holland in my top 5 best.
Really?
And the reason for that is I feel like Haaland just exceeds everybody so far. Like he got 52 goals in all competitions last season. I think he's just over everybody. And I just have some other players that I think Haaland's like that unspoken. Haaland is like the best. Even if he's
Yeah,
not
I see that.
scoring, I think he's like the best. And I just wanted to highlight some other players, but like I like that you put Haaland in fourth and kind of like paved the
Hmm.
way for some other players.
Well, yeah, because there are other players that are definitely succeeding more, and since he's in that dip right now, I feel like there's other players that, like you said, he's always going to be phenomenal and amazing,
Yeah.
but there's other players that we should highlight, you know?
Yeah. So my number 4 is Heung-min Son from Spurs. We talked about him a little bit earlier. I think he just really has to be on here. He has really stepped
Hmm.
up since Kane left. He rejuvenated himself. Because I feel like the past maybe 2 seasons, maybe ish, he hasn't like. At least I can't like really remember the last time he really was that main guy. He has 6 goals already. He links up with Madison amazingly. Like they are like that new perfect partnership. I love the way they play together. He plays more of a striker role now and does amazing at it. And you know what's funny though? He literally took out Richarlison, the striker of Spurs, like the actual number 9, and Son plays there now. And I have always been a fan of him. I think he is so humble. He's an amazing player and he has just been doing like amazing in the Prem for so long and right now, especially in like when Kane left, like that kind of like time of need, he really stepped up and now is like the guy.
Hmm. I agree with you on that.
Yeah, I think he's just very underrated too. I want to say,
He is. He kind of is. He
like,
like he's one of the main reasons why Tottenham is in first. So
no, for real. He's like their guy, and I think it's going to be a major loss if they lose him to an injury or something like that.
yeah.
And then you're number 3.
My
Top
number three
3.
was so a United player,
Oh,
Rasmus Højlund.
okay, okay.
So I think he's definitely one of the top players for United at the
Mhm.
moment. He's constantly aware of his surroundings on the field,
Yeah.
unlike other players that United has right now.
We will
He
not
knows what
mention.
he's doing. No, but he knows what he's doing, and he's only 20 years old, and he is
Yeah.
performing up to many people's expectations. Like a lot of people are like, "Oh, you can't put this much pressure on this kid." Like even we were like that. We were
Oh
saying that.
yeah.
And clearly he's living up to our expectations, and he has so much more potential since he's still very young. So I have him up here because he might not be the best at the moment, but he definitely has the potential to reach it.
I feel like one of the reasons that you might have him on here is because he is that positive light for United in, like, this really
True.
bad time, and I think he definitely exceeded our expectations. I didn't
Mhm.
think he would really score that much, but he really hit the ground running, like,
He
crazy.
came in prepared.
No, yeah, I think he knew. He's like, "Guys, you guys kinda suck right now, so I gotta help you out." And I enjoy watching him. I think he is that positive side for United, and if United can step up their form and serve him, I think he will be amazing.
Mhm. He'll definitely he already has that amazing form on the field, like I've mentioned. He needs those other players too to, like, flourish with them, not
Oh,
just
yeah.
him solely on the field being the bright light, you know?
Yeah, so my number 3, this I have just loved this player ever since he came in this summer. Dominic Szoboszlai from Liverpool. Like I said for Hoyland, he hit the ground running right away. He's really living up to the pressure of the Liverpool number 8 shirt, which was worn by Steven Gerrard, and that is a very big number to live up to, especially at Liverpool. He performs on and off the ball. He literally, this is a stat I found. He has already covered nearly 55 miles in 8 Premier League games on the field. That is
That's crazy.
crazy. He is so valuable to the team, especially like um in his short time there. Like he is already like their guy. He scored only one goal, but it was an absolute screamer. It was incredible. He's the attacking midfielder that they needed after their midfield overhaul. He provides more of a threat to the opposition along with the forward line, like with you have Darwin, Luis Diaz, Salah, sometimes Jota's in there, and then you have Shabazlai who's also attacking. I think that's very scary, and I thought he would be good, right? But I
Mhm.
did not think he would be that good. Like I think he exceeded my expectations. He's really renovating the Liverpool midfield, like I said a million times. It's something that they needed. They had a very um not old but older players, and now
Mhm.
they have Shabazlai, McAllister, Curtis Jones is now playing a lot, and I am so excited to see how Dominic Shabazlai flourishes under Klopp, because I think Klopp is like a real top manager, and Shabazlai came from Leipzig, a German team, and Klopp plays that German way, and I am just so excited to see. I heard people already having him as their transfer of the season, which is a very early to call, but I think he could definitely be up there.
He definitely has the potential. I was actually considering him for 5th. So I agree
Really?
with you. Yep, so I agree with you completely in every single sense that you just mentioned. He is an amazing player.
Mhm.
He is living up to expectations, and some of my expectations he's even like overachieving. I feel like he's just
Mhm.
doing amazing right now.
Yeah. Now top 2. This is gonna oof.
So my second, you've actually already mentioned it's Son for
Really?
Tottenham.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, so I secretly love Tottenham, not love, but they're like my you know how you love
Secretly.
Liverpool?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fake.
Like, mine's Tottenham. So,
Yeah.
Son has stepped it up for his team once Kane left. Like you've mentioned, he has amazing form, and he's not a ball hog like other players might be. Because I kind of expected once Kane left, I thought, like you said, Richarlison or him would definitely become like the next Kane, where like they're like constantly just getting the ball and scoring. But he's a
Mhm.
very team oriented player, like you said, 6 goals, and he's very kind on and off the field, which I feel like is one of the main reasons why I also have him up here because he's not just there to perform, he's there for his team. So he's going to continue to become an asset to Spurs, and I hope they don't rely on him too much like they did on Kane because we saw relying on Kane put them
Yeah.
on the lower half of the table, and now that they have someone else who's scoring many goals for them, I hope they don't do the same.
Yeah, I think, yeah, like I said before, he stepped up in that time of need. He is their
Mhm.
guy now. He kicked out Richarlison out of the team, and just I've just loved Son for as
I love
long as
him.
has been in there. He's so like humble, and he's so like
Mhm.
he gives
He's
like
so
this
humble and
warm
kind.
energy. Yeah, like he's just
There's
nice.
There was this one video of him when he was in an interview, and instead of just putting the microphone down, he lightly placed it and, like, bowed to the interviewer, and I just think he's such, like, a kind
Just
person
like
that he brings it
yeah.
on the field, and you can't hate him. He's
Yeah,
just such an
yeah, I was
amazing
just gonna
player.
say that you read my mind. You cannot hate Son. Like it is impossible to hate him. If you hate him, there's something wrong in your head. Like I
Exactly, like,
I
you're just a bad person.
yeah, you're just like if you don't like Son, just go away. Go away. Cuz
Honestly.
everyone likes Son. My number 2 was actually Declan Rice. He
Of course.
he I think I remember our first episode, I think I mentioned him a lot because
Mhm.
I just I love Declan Rice. He looks so worth the price that Arsenal paid for him. He came in for a lot of money, a lot of money. I think
Mhm.
Rice just has that leadership, and he showed that straight away when he came into Arsenal. Like him and Martin Odegaard, like really rule that the midfield and just the team overall. He performs consistently, even in Arsenal's bad moments. Like their loss against Milan in the Champions League. I think he just looked amazing in there too. He's so like perfect. Like I there's like not enough superlatives to describe him. I think he's that type of player that everyone wants in their team. Chelsea wanted him, United wanted him, City wanted him. I know Bayern wanted him also. Like everybody wants him because he is that guy. He is such a good defensive midfielder, and I would say he's also kind of like a box to box midfielder. I feel like he goes up, he comes back, he help. You know what I mean? Like he's just
Mhm.
everywhere, and he's so good that it's scary. Like I he came in and just like right away it looked like he was at Arsenal for like 10 years, and I literally cannot wait to see him grow, and I think he could definitely become one of Arsenal's like legendary players.
He's definitely gonna become a top player for Arsenal. I actually kind of forgot about him.
What?
I don't know how. He's
How
such
do
an
you
amazing player,
forget
so I
Declan
agree.
Rice?
I don't even know. But I agree with your choice. Like it's a I probably would have put him in like third or fourth,
Mhm.
but he is a phenomenal player. He's everyone wants him. He's amazing. That's all I can say. He's amazing.
Yeah, and no one has even mentioned his price tag ever since he went to
Mm-mm.
Arsenal. Like I feel like people do that with a lot of players. Like I know people say it for Caicedo. Um, they haven't really mentioned it for Jude Bellingham that much because he is performing. I think it's just like when you come into a team and you don't for like that amount of money and you don't really perform right away, then people will be like, "Oh, you paid £100 million for so and so, and he's not doing anything." Like I remember with Jack Grealish
Yeah.
like 2 seasons ago. It was the same thing happened, but no one has said anything about Rice, which I really love because he is like, because
He's playing up to
yeah,
expectations.
definitely. And now you're number one. Should I do a drum roll? I'm actually very excited to see your pick. Like I'm kind of scared.
My number one, I feel like it's pretty, when you hear it, you're gonna be like, "Oh, of course she picked this."
I'm.
So I picked Bukayo Saka.
Oh my gosh! Of course,
Of course.
of
So
course.
I don't think it can explain, like, how much I've already mentioned all of this, I think. He's just 21 years old, and he's
Mhm.
already established a name for himself. He's already established a position for himself. He's definitely a leader figure on the field, and I feel like if
Mhm.
he sticks with Arsenal, he has the potential to become a captain,
Oh, he definitely
and he has
will.
yeah, and he has beautiful form, control, and mindset. Like, I know he's injured now, but his contributing
Contributions. Contributions.
contribution
Oh my
his
gosh.
contribution so far has been amazing. 7 games and 4 goals. He's just not even the goals, like, he's assisting, he's passing, he's
Mhm.
creating opportunities for his teammates. He knows what he's doing. I feel like he's been with Arsenal for so long too. He's just a fan favorite.
Yeah.
So I just love Bukayo Saka. He's so amazing. He's one of the players that I absolutely look up to and love. He's so amazing.
Yeah, I have my Declan Rice loving. You have your Bukayo Saka loving. Um, so my number one pick, I'm actually very surprised you didn't pick because maybe it's just me, but I picked James Madison. I was
Oh, that's good.
thinking like maybe it can't really be anyone else at the moment. I feel like biggest bargain transfer ever, best summer transfer, signing of the season to me. I think he's had an instant impact on Spurs. He has fit right into Postecoglou's side. Spurs like rely on him a lot, but because he's that good. He has 2 goals. He has the tied most assists in the league, along with Neto and Trippier, both at 5. He's the playmaker that they've been needing. They don't play really defensive anymore. Like they're up there, they're attacking, and I just love it. He has formed an amazing partnership with Son. Like we said, we praised Son. Madison just looks so confident. He's an amazing passer of the ball, and I think he will become one of like the greats just in the Premier League overall if he keeps up this form. Because I am loving watching James Madison right now.
I agree with you. Definitely a top player for sure.
Yeah, and especially since he came from Leicester and they literally got him for like 40 million, technically 30 million pounds because they traded a player. I think it's such a big bargain. He was already like really good, right, at Leicester, but now he's like at a really big club and he can really make a name for himself. And I just love
Mhm.
him. I just love him. I also had some honorable mentions that I couldn't really fit in. I had James Ward-Prowse from West Ham. I really did want to put him in here. I really did. It's just
I was considering him.
I love his set pieces. He's been amazing for West Ham. He really stepped up in that like Declan Rice crisis that West Ham were having. Then I have Mickey Van de Ven from Spurs. He's like 21, 22, I believe, and he has revamped Spurs' midfield.
Mhm.
I think we talk about him almost every week. I think he's amazing. I also had Lewis Dunk from Brighton. I think he's an older player. He's 31, I believe, in his 30s. I know that, but I think just Brighton overall have been amazing, and Dunk is the captain, and he's really been like you could tell that he is the captain. He is in such
Mhm.
good form, and he's just really helping Brighton out. And then I also had this is someone I really did want to put in here. Like I was trying to find ways to incorporate him. I had Alexander Isak from Newcastle. I really did want to put him in here. I think he has just been one of the best players I have seen so far this season. I think he like basically um like kicked Callum Wilson out of his starting
Yeah.
place, and now it's Isak. And he just had, just at Newcastle, he already has 6 goals so far this season in 7 appearances. He is just incredible. I do wish I put him in here maybe instead of Alvarez, maybe, but I can't wait to see what he does in the Prem, and that's yeah.
Yeah, that's it for today. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Please join us next week. Don't forget to follow our Instagram and YouTube at Very Factual Podcast.